All right. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody this July 14th? Hopefully, everybody is doing good. This is Trade with UFOs Nailing FX US session. We are on the YouTube channel, the Trade with UFOs YouTube channel here. I am also with the team on FX Street. So, Oppa on Wednesdays, Pedro on Thursdays, Oppa on Wednesdays. Mostly, and Tyrion is on many days. So those dates there obviously need to be changed. But do go to FX Street to see when we are on. Now, before we get started, please read these disclaimers. So the following video, so whether you're watching us live today or whether you watch this the recorded session later, all of this is for education and instructional purposes only, and so Traddictiv provides these videos purely for the purpose of demonstrating a method of using the product. So that's our trade with UFOs and auto climate. So auto trade with UFOs, auto climate, and auto UFOs, right? So users understand that all the content used in the video is purely for demonstration purposes only and not a guide, and doesn't provide any indication or prediction of actual results. So as a user, you understand and agree that hypothetical results obtained through the demonstration uh, do not indicate in any way the results you may receive on using our products. Okay. So if you do want to reach me, you can reach me at andrew@traddictiv.com, or if you'd like to kind of check out the tools that we have that we're going to be demonstrating, okay, you can always go to tradewithufos/Andrew and just fill in your name here, for us. Tell us that you're not a robot, okay, and express your interest in the apps and what this does by registrating as well. If you have any sort of questions or things like that, you can ask them here, and we'll get back to you. Okay, so do get into register with us, your expression of interest. Okay, and with that, let's check out what's going on. So is there any sort of news coming up? So today is Tuesday, so nothing too much until tomorrow. So you got BOJ and their monetary statement. We also have Bank of China. Um, sorry, say Bank of China, Bank of Canada. Their monetary policy and rate interest. So then we have Australian interest rates. Some more ECB sort of news coming out, retail sales. So more sort of interesting news later in the week. But for today, nothing really too exciting. Okay, a lot of stuff has already come out anyway. It's more about the European market. So really probably, we do see some movement in the yen. So maybe part of that is positioning prior to the BOJ coming out. Okay, so with that, let's take a look at, let's just start with the yen, right? So we have seen some weakness in the markets here, with the yen in particular, right? And so one of the things that we can do, let's just get back up to a maybe a daily time frame, just to give some perspective of how the dollar yen has been trading, right? So one of the things that we observe here is really we've got this wider range that has been put in at the beginning of the year, but also we seem to be holding some level of range trading between 110 and really 106. So if we did want to kind of draw a couple of horizontal lines to define where that sideward range is, right? And we can even be a bit precise in marking out those lines, right? And just locking them in. Let me just lock it in so we don't move them. Okay. And a good thing on this high time frame as well is to identify where the areas of interest for selling is. So this whole area has been an area of interest for sellers, and this whole area down here is an area of interest for buyers. So kind of in between this point, we've been kind of moving, right? So if we want to get a little bit more details about where those concentrations are on a lower time frame, then it becomes a little clearer now here, right? That the sellers are going to be interested back up again at 109.50 on these higher time frames, right? And probably some buying interest is going to come back in down at these levels here, right? So some selling interest here and some buying interest down here, but kind of the buy orders, right, that are supporting prices above the 106 area appears around here. So we can just highlight this whole area here, and let me use my traditional grays. Okay, right, and then we do have, if we want to refine this a little further, so we have some selling opportunities here. Okay, so just before it reaches up to the 110, we have an area of selling down here, and then we have some areas of interested buyers down around here, and we do see some sellers coming in at the 107.50, right? So 107.60, right? So we have this overall range that price has been moving between, so 110 and 106, and now we have a narrower range that price seems to be trading at between these extremes. So it's really, I call it 106 to up to here. Okay, so 108 here. And if we go down, probably if we go down the time frame, we may find some UFO. So pretty much spot on to where I had expected there be some selling, right? And also some selling down here. So in terms of the opportunities, let's just turn that off here to make it a little clearer. It looks like we have the sellers coming in, and what we're seeing is pretty much a lower high, right? So now you've got the those who are assessing these markets as being in a downtrend, right? That's what they're going to be looking at, right? That's how they're going to define it. Okay, let me make it a little thicker just so that we can see it a little clearer, and make it a solid line. Okay, so that's absolutely clear. All right, so you got your high, your lower high, and then again you've got a lower high. So to folks who are trading the dollar yen, even though we've got a bit of a pullback here, the risk, the movement into yen as a safe, back into safety, so to speak, is not taking place yet, but with the S&P, right? If we look at the S&P, and let me just go here, okay, SP 500, right? If we want to look at let's look at the CFD, okay. Let me do this. look at the, yeah, let's do this one here. Let's use this one here. Okay. So if we look at the S&P, right, where it's come back up to these areas here, right? And we had a big sell-off yesterday, and now there's some, potentially some selling pressure coming in, right? So we've got these lows here that are being challenged, right? And so, why we want to look at this is because, we're just interested in some of the risk sentiment, right? So in particular, if we look at, Aussie yen, right, we see that prices have come up to these areas here, kind of challenging these areas, right? And if people want, to go into Aussie, sort of carry trade type of situation, right? They'd want to buy Aussie and then sell yen. But we've seen some pressure, right, on the Aussie. Yes, it's come up, but and we have this retracement here, kind of driven by the weakness of the yen. But now we need to see, if we're really going to see a proper risk on type of environment, right? Which currently doesn't seem to be the narrative that's building. We may not see a clearing of this 75, call it 75.20 sort of area, right? And so, just going back to the, talk about risk, this correlation, between the S&P as an indication of risk appetite is being challenged now. And as we saw on the Aussie yen, the ability for prices to kind of move above a certain point is being inhibited, right? So it's something to keep an eye on, right? Is the equities and any emerging correlation tied to the movement of the equity assets against the yen pairs, so in particular Aussie yen and dollar yen clearly is showing still some appetite to, there's just a retracement for a continuation lower, so that's one thing to probably keep in mind for dollar yen, right? One to watch, to see if prices can move lower. We probably missed out on the. Have we missed out? Maybe not. We could still. There's still potential for price to kind of coming up a little deeper and then continue moving down. So maybe one thing you want to consider, right? And so this again, if we look at the AutoUFOs, it's helping us identify the area, but also helping us define risk, right? So if we kind of look at the risk involved, right? So that's about 20 pips, right, in terms of price risk, right? But depending on how your capital, how much capital you have, how much you are willing to risk per trade, is it 1%, is it 2%, right? You will risk, you can look at this opportunity in different ways, right? So if we say we want to, let's enter it at an even price, okay, and we take a stop loss at if we want to give a little bit of space, right, 5 pip space, we can do 107.65, and then if you just do it to 1-to-1, right, you're getting out at 107.50, and if you want to risk say $100 on that, that's your position size, right? So about 43, right? 430. Okay. All right. So you can consider this as an opportunity. Of course, you may use Fibonacci's, you may use some other strategy, right, to determine whether this is an opportunity you want to go short on, right? Um, but this is how we would one way to apply auto UFOs, right, in your trading decisions. If you consider using the auto climate, okay, how we would look at auto climate is, if we are looking for opportunities on a 4 hour, then we probably would be assessing the climate on the weekly, right? And so the weekly is telling us, the climate is conducive to sell, right? So with that in mind, it makes sense, right, to be a seller up at 107.40, right? Because the overall sentiment, the overall market environment is telling us that there is appetite for selling, right? And even though we have currently we have 5 weeks, right, of a down climate, right? It can go more because this is statistically an average, right? So up to 6 could be 7 weeks of a red confirmed down climate, is still possible. So I, that's how we would use auto climate, and to help us assess whether our bias to the downside um, is better, right, than you know than a trade to the long side, right? Now, now if we just look at the overall structure of how price is trading again, we know that it's a sideways move, right? So so one thing that we also want to make sure we do is make sure our expectations, right, are in alignment with where prices could be less attractive um, to sellers and more attractive to buyers, right? So uh, that's the overall reason why we want to look at those high time frames to make sure that we understand the context of those lower time frame opportunities. Okay, so so one of the reasons again for looking at the dollar yen is just because of the overall weakness in the equity markets. And as we approach earnings seasons in particular, you know, these could potentially be triggers for the overall markets wanting to move lower, and then then we see that reflected in the currency markets as well. This whole idea of risk on, risk off, and also money flows, right? So if there is interest in keeping dollars, there's going to be more demand for dollars, and so that's why we've had this you know discussions that you hear about uh, the dollar. There's potentially interest in the dollar coming back into play, right? As people determine that the riskiness in other currencies, or to be in other emerging markets, right, doesn't make sense anymore, and so they want to bring their money home, or they want to do something to put their money into dollars, right? And so that would intuitively increase demand for the purchase of dollars and the selling of uh, you know the other currencies, right? So it's a natural sort of pairs trade in that sort of sense. You can buy dollars in different currencies, right? Or you can sell those dollars against those different currencies, right? So with the dollar, right, we are in a sideways movement, right, because we haven't had higher highs yet, We haven't had lower lows yet, right? They've just been, kind of equivalent to each other. So until, there is a clear move above these highs or a clear move below these lows, we can't continue sideways for a period of time, So there is a little bit of softness, right, coming in. So the Aussie, right, as a reflection of the appetite for risk, has been, again, trading sideways, and so, so that's going to be an influence, on the other pairs. So whether we look at, Aussie yen, which we looked at earlier, again, you've got that sort of sideways type of price movement. The Aussie CAD, right? Um, it's been not so much sideways move as it is a, upward rising uh, channel, is how people would define it. But it's more of a, you know an angled sideways move, if you you know allow me to define it that way. Then Aussie Swiss, right, against sideways move, and Aussie New Zealand. They always have a tumultuous sort of relationship with each other, as you can see, right? And and then we have the Euro Aussie, right? So also influenced by, some sort of sideways move, but of course, the euro being maybe a little bit more dominant in the relationship here. Okay, and let's see, pound Aussie. Yeah, so this is, is this a reflection of the pound or of the Aussie? So you could see that the pound is headed down, and so therefore you see that reflected in the other currency pairs. So it's more like the pound is being more of an influence here than the Aussie in that previous sort of example, right? Okay, so what else do we have? Yeah, it's kind of all there on the Aussie, right? So I guess we'll just have to see, right, how this one kind of plays out. What else we're looking at? Yeah, so that Aussie, you know, so if you think about it on a higher time frame, what's that going to look like? It's kind of like this, almost like a base forming, right? And a kind of an ugly one, but nevertheless, some sideways action, right? And that could last a while. It already has lasted, a number of, at least 2 weeks there, right? Um, okay, so that's Aussie dollar. New Zealand is probably going to be very similar, as you can see here. Let's clear that a little. Okay, euro, very strong against the dollar. Pound, weak. I think there was some news that came out, right? Dollar CAD. Okay, some weakness there, and that's our dollar yen, right? Dollar Swiss. So the Swiss is being quite strong against dollar, and yeah, some Asian currencies there. So okay, so that's at a very summarized level. Okay, so where's the see, the immediate opportunity? Let's kind of go through again. Let's just look at the Aussie. We know that sideways range here. New Zealand dollar kind of broke out of the sideways range to this area of, people call this prior resistance turn support, right? So it's kind of rebounding there. If you're a Fibonacci sort of player, right, that could be a certain type of retracement that you're interested in, right? It's the euro being strong, and again, I mean, if the euro can prove itself to be higher and continue higher, then it's the emergence of a continuation of the uptrend, So it was a very strong uptrend here, and then it kind of went sideways for a while, right? Okay, so uh, so so back to dollar yen. Okay, right. So we've got our opportunity here. It's kind of a it's kind of area that has been traded before. So not necessarily a bad thing, but just something to take note. But really, yeah, I don't really like that price action at the moment there. Um, I guess the problem with Aussie CAD at the moment is just that sort of a lot of choppiness. A lot of choppiness. Okay, Aussie Swiss kind of sidewards, right? And this is the Aussie New Zealand. So nothing really defined. It's really popping out. And this kind of overall down trend, CAD Swiss, sorry, CAD Yen. Okay, so it's kind of a triple top sort of situation here. Almost a triple bottom down here. Kind of look at the zigzags here. Right. So let's kind of think about again kind of the yen pairs. So if we look at Swiss yen, you know, where do we think, right? What's the overall structure telling us here? You know, so we have the highs here, and if we just draw the lows down here, okay, we know the trend line's been broken. So those interested in trend lines are going to see that, and they're are we going to have a triple top, or is it going to fall short, you know? And this is where the UFOs can help us, right? It's giving us this area as being an area of interest to the sellers, right? So one of the concerns is some of that basing very close to the very close to our sell orders, right? And then we have the buy orders here, right? So we potentially have a sideways market, right? If we didn't want to take that first UFO, we could look at this second UFO. So there's two scenarios here, at least. Is one, we get a pullback to this area of buying, right? And so we may have something like this occur, right? Prices come down here and then move here, and it could just oscillate, right? It could potentially oscillate, or it could, make its way up and put in a lower high, sorry, a lower low, and then break through here. Right? That's one thing that could unfold. Or we could get, a movement lower here, and then again, you have this range trade, right? That's entirely possible, right? Or it could just, bounce, go down here, bounce up a little bit, and then put in a lower high, right? So that's already a lower high, equal low, and then after that, that's really more, you know, the lower low. Okay, all right. So the yen pairs, if you do a longer sort of assessment or view of things, we can also see that this area still is an area of interest for sellers, right? But more interested in selling up at this area, 116.50, right? There is definitely interest up here, So is that, is that going to have an influence of moving prices higher? Well, it's attempted a number of times, right? In this space, right? Many times before. So let's just get a sense here. What's keeping prices low? So clearly, right? We wanna be careful, right? Of any sort of moves above this area here, right? And so even to go short, we may want to wait, but what we can do is check with AutoClimate, right? And so you see here, AutoClimate, even on the daily, right, is saying, to be focused on longs, right? To be focused on longs. So we just go back down to the 1 hour here, right? So there's an area of influence here to the sell side. And we had been, okay, I'm gonna move this bigger one and move those UFOs, right? So we know that this area here was of interest for buyers, and this area here was also interested for buyers, and that's the, that's what the market is telling us is that there's an opportunity, right, for the overall influence of prices to continue higher, and that this is the, at least on this time frame, this is the nearest opportunity to get in, right? Any sort of lower, it's still an opportunity, but now you've got a situation where, it could potentially break lower, or you could just go sideways, So just something to keep in mind, right? As we look at these, the Swiss yen in particular, right? Something to be aware of. Okay. So if you, again, just to demonstrate, this UFO, okay, is I think that was on the 4, right? So on the 4 hour, okay, is helping us see, right, that if we're going to initiate a long opportunity, right, that this is the nearest area that would be of interest. Okay, so if we want to, for example, just look at going long at this point. And then the other cool thing about the UFOs is that it's able to help you identify where your stops could be, kind of the area which your stops could be placed, right? So that would be, 113.70, right? If we give that a little bit of room, right, maybe a 5 pips of room, that's going to be 65. So that's still a 10 pips. That's pretty narrow, um, sort of risk, right? And so let's say we just want a 1-to-1, and we're willing to risk $100, okay? And this is what will spit out your trade size, okay? So if we, again, if we just want to stick to, one lot, right? And okay, we make, risking $93 to make, to make $93, right? And so that could be, an opportunity that you're interested in. Okay. So and that's assuming a continuation higher, right? So again, you just got to watch the climate on the higher time frame just to see if, for this 4-hour opportunity, if that climate changes, right, then you want to remove the order, right? Because this is assuming with the expectation that price is going to move higher, right? And for the price to move higher, you either have to have a strong, Swiss franc, or a weak, yen dominating the pair, right? So just something to consider, right, when trading, Swiss yen. Let's see, euro yen. So here, the influence is going to be the euro, right, as we kind of saw before. And so, yen, of course, is helping in this, right? Because the weakness in the yen is influencing prices to, in this sort of pair, to also move lower, or move higher, because inverse to the yen. And so, are we going to see any sort of weakness coming in here? We tested it once, tried to test it once again, didn't make it, and a couple of other times when it was pretty close. So is this going to be, the test that, will lead to a higher continuation of this trend up, this overall movement of price upwards? Or is, because this was an area, right, of where sellers were interested in selling, is this where we also are waiting to see if price can turn, right, and start to put in those uh, lower highs, right? So to see that happen, we can look at the lower time frames and see how's that price, formation developing. Are we going to get, where's my paintbrush gone? There it is. So this is the high, the low, and if we have this price move down here, then you've got another higher high, right? And then if price decides to pause, right, here you've got a higher low, right? So by definition, right, this would be an emerging, kind of uptrend, right? And so the hypothesis of prices moving higher for euro yen, could be, you know, a way to be true to the overall climate, which is up, right? And you've got an opportunity for moving prices, um, higher, right? Or have an interest in that, therefore have an interest in that, right? And the overall sort of movement of price as well is helpful to the upside, right? So let me just get rid of these lines so that's clearer. Okay. And so where are the UFOs here, right? UFOs are down here on the 4-hour. Let's go that whole area. But if we consider a potential, move to the, continue move to the upside, it's also potential that price, to allow prices down here. And we'll see. We'll see how that one kind of plays out. So pound yen. So let's turn off the other UFOs first. Okay. All right. So we've had some medical sort of, issues, and so we're kind of looking at, these pairs here. To a high time frame here. Yeah, see, gain some perspective. Move some of this stuff here. Okay, so prices tried to retest this 136 area. Okay, and again, it's kind of like, you know, euro yen, right? Do we want to see, you know, a lower high kind of put in here for a, you know, change in trend, or are we going to have expectations for price moving, you know, in the direction that it has been going over the many weeks, you know, days and weeks. Okay, so we have had some testing around this whole area, you know. So whether it be the breaking of the prior highs, right, or, you know, at the lower time frame, the testing of this whole area, right. So it kind of tells us that 136 is, you know, kind of a significant area. We just want to pay attention to, but again, you know, we are looking at a sideways sort of area, right? Okay. Now, are there any particular markets folks are interested in? For those who are attending, you know, feel free to, you know, to put in, you know, any sort of markets you want to review today in this US session. Anybody want to comment in the chat? No? Okay, everybody's kind of quiet today. Maybe focused on the, yeah, maybe a little concerned about the equity markets, right, from what we saw yesterday. But you know, have we seen any sort of move? Let's see. Okay. So even with the S&P, right, if we look at it on the daily, you know, that move even from yesterday, you know, kind of puts us still within this range until these lows and these highs break, you know. So it doesn't really, you know, how does that change our expectations, right? For how to look at these, markets, right? You know, and that's why, you know, it's good to look at things from a bigger picture, you know, so that you can say to yourself, well, all right, if we are moving in a sideways mode, right, whether it be on the Aussie, and New Zealand is maybe less range bound. You know, the euro is kind of quite volatile, quite a little bit messy. The pound a little bit more, you know, more movement in terms of retracement. You know, in terms of forming patterns. CAD, you know, is also not really doing too nicely. Although you can define the range, right? Can define the range. Okay, so it is moving sideways, and if we look at what's influencing, you know, what's influencing that price here, you know, to keep it within the range are these areas of selling, and this whole area of buying, right? So I'm just going to move this one up here, right? Because if price is going to move even towards that area of buying down below, right? It's going to have to get through this whole area of buy orders, right? That have been there. Okay. Now that's not to say that market players can't remove, right, those buy orders if there's some, you know, overarching fundamental change in in the economies and therefore the influence around dollar CAD, right? But yeah, what is that scenario? For prices, moving, either higher or lower outside of this range. So we've got this range here that we can pay attention to, and until you get a break beyond the highs or beyond the lows, then you really need to focus on the opportunities that trade within that area, right? And as with any sort of style markets, you're looking to sell, right, at the top of the range, and you're looking at you know to buy at the bottom of the range. Okay, right, just like that. So what does that mean for risk and reward ratios, right? So if I use the risk and reward ratio tool, right, if you're going to be swing trading, it's not going to make too much sense to have an expectation where you're going to go for a 8:1, right? You can't have that sort of expectation because you've got these sell UFOs in the way. So what you want to look at then is opportunities that are less than 8:1, maybe 5:1, but even then, right, it price struggled to get up there. So let's look at something like a 4:1, right? Nothing wrong with that, you know. But what you want to do is moderate your expectations to what the opportunity is, and what the how the pricing action within the market is what is it saying to you? So if we look at auto climate, okay, just to get a sense of, well, what is the smarter, is there a bias that we want to have, right? Well, it's kind of neutral, and that's kind of what it's really telling us, overall is that price movements have, it's kind of boring, and so to go long or short, that's really up to you, to decide how you want to do that, as long as you're aware of the context, right? That these highs here, if there's a break of the highs, then people are going to interpret that as being, um, you know, the continuation of a trend up, right? Or if you get a break of these lows, right? And even though it's going to hit these areas of unfilled orders, right? Is there enough selling overall that emerges that will keep prices um, moving lower, and in some ways probably forcing the players to remove, their orders, right? So it's one thing that you know you want to consider, right, when you're doing your trade plan, your specific plan for this particular trade, right, for this particular market is to maybe just focus you know, um, on longs, right? Because if you believe that price is gonna move through here, you can do longs and shorts, longs and shorts. But if the likelihood of especially if we go back and look at how dollar CAD behaves, right? Is there any potential for prices to break up higher, right? And so to be focused on the shorts may not be the best thing. All right. Okay. So we've kind of, been spending a lot of this session, right, on the yen pairs, just to make sure that we see where are the opportunities in trading this pair, given the fact that there is that sort of correlation, right, to the equity markets, especially on the dollar yen, or the Aussie yen. Right, Aussie yen is more the carry trade. We do see, right, evidence of you know um, of selling, evidence of buying, but also um, the risk appetite, right, uh, and the movement of currencies back into yen, you know, outside of these other markets. That's why we're kind of focusing on dollar yen as the risk sentiment overall changes. Then we may see a greater flow back into yen, and therefore the exchange rate of dollars into yen, or Aussie into yen, is going to pick up, right? And so it's probably something that we want to pay attention to over the next couple of weeks as earnings come out, and as the market players decide, on whether they want to be risk averse, and just continue buying, right? Or I should say, not continue buying anymore, or are they going to, take on more risk, right? So, with that, you know, this is one way to enhance your trading decisions through using the auto climate, using the Trade with UFOs tool, right, to identify those areas of interest for buying and for selling, and see how you can incorporate that into your overall, trading decisions. Okay. So if you do want to reach me, let me just go back to the front page here. Okay. You can email me at andrew@traddictiv.com. I do encourage you to sign up for and register your interest in the apps. For those of you who are attending live, or those who are watching this recorded session, these links here will help you to obtain the resources or information on the resources that you'd like to have access to. Okay. All right. Well, hey, that's all I have for today. Thanks for joining me in the US session, and just continue to trade safe, and we will see you next time. Okay. All right. Thanks.